Hi, welcome to Tech Turks. Today we have Novitske of Sigularity. Sigularity is a venture capital focusing on opportunities in the tech space. So, Lexi, thank you for coming on to
Thank you for having me.
Tech Turks. Thank you. So, first question. What's the difference between VC and private equity?
So venture capital has typically been investment firms that invested in early stage to later stage growth tech. Now a lot of private equity firms are also getting involved in investing in tech, but still venture capital is way different. First of all, how we structure deals. So we really, instead of taking a controlling interest in the firms, we still like to be a minority or even a large minority player. But the value we bring to the table is really less through our money and more through our value add in helping the entrepreneurs build their companies. It's especially important when you're operating in an environment like Nigeria, where it's not so easy. There's a lot of problems you have to face. So typically venture capital firms are ones that come to the table providing both their economic support through capital, but also a lot of value add through the teams that they put behind the entrepreneurs to help them build their business.
So question, so you are here in Nigeria. As a VC, most VCs are actually outside the country. So being here, what difference does it make?
So I guess from two sides. From my side, I think it brings a lot of value being able to see deal flow a lot earlier than a lot of the firms in the US. As long as the founders are local and Nigerian, we can discuss international founders that are operating in Nigeria as well. But also in this market, I think whereas a lot of firms might be able to do hard technical due diligence, in this market especially, I think soft side due diligence is more important. Understanding the entrepreneur's network, their relationships, kind of hearing the backstories of maybe other businesses they've been involved with. That's usually important just in terms of success of the deal picking, but also being local in terms of helping the entrepreneur really drive the growth in their company. I think you can unlock a lot of value through your relationships with major enterprise clients, helping them navigate the regulatory landscape, which is also quite difficult, and providing, I think, a deep network of talent that they can really tap as their business grows. So that's what we try to provide.
So, question: why Nigeria? I mean, you mentioned tech opportunities. What do you see here in this market? I mean, we complain about government is not driving technology change. Rules have not been amended. So what gives you that confidence to set up shop in Nigeria?
So it's not an easy market for sure. I came out here 7 years ago actually to start working in a private equity firm and saw what was in the early evolution of the digital marketplace. So entrepreneurs were either coming out of larger companies or returning into Nigeria to start businesses, so really high quality talent. And as you know, Nigerians are very entrepreneurial, sometimes maybe too entrepreneurial. They're doing like 3 different businesses at once. But also, I think even now that's even evolved into a lot more education. There's Andela that's obviously training developers. There's Google and Facebook that are trying to really boost a lot of talent on the continent, and even more robotics academies. But I think that the number one opportunity is actually what you mentioned, is all the problems. This is a market where we face problems every day, right? Like, just left my house, I haven't had water for 2 days.
Oh, exactly. So I see what you mean. So companies using technology to solve the problems of the environment, and of that we have quite a bit here in Nigeria. We require a lot of developers and skills, and we see a lot of skill flight from Nigeria. How do we deepen that here? Because I mean, those are the basic ingredients for the technology.
Yeah, you're completely right. I'm seeing a lot of I would say middle level talent that is leaving Nigeria for higher paid opportunities abroad. So a lot of entrepreneurs that are maybe not starting their own businesses, or a lot of tech talent that aren't starting their own businesses, are definitely looking for rich opportunities elsewhere. So deepening the talent is one aspect, encouraging the government to really build in STEM programs into especially higher education, but even primary and secondary, I think, is key. But also, I think showing some, which I think we're starting to see, showing some big success stories in Nigeria that can really show that by starting a business, you can really become a successful entrepreneur yourself. But also through stock vesting programs, even if you're not the number one founder, you can still have equity from those companies, and really valuing that growth. So far, I think equity options haven't been of value to anybody because they haven't really seen the exits and seen the cash flow, but I think that's just beginning to start. So hopefully that'll help keep a lot of the talent in Nigeria, because the opportunity is deep.
Yeah. So because that must be a concern for you when you're investing in a company where that talent might go. So are there things that you try to help in terms of advisory to keep that talent in?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things with our investee companies that we really push are stock option plans,
okay.
But also having programs where they're upskilling their own labor force. You can never contractually lock anybody in, but if an employee sees themselves as growing and sees the company growing and maybe expanding across geographic borders within the continent of Africa, but also even internationally, I think that could be extremely valuable in keeping talent. In reality, like we've seen that some teams, because they're so concerned about members leaving, that they've kept two separate siloed teams working on the same project concurrently because they're afraid that some of their core talent will leave. So it's an expensive problem.
It is. It's like banks in Nigeria.
Yeah.
You have to have two of everything so that
Exactly.
backup.
Yeah.
So that's happening now in that space.
Yeah.
Next question, and tying to that, Nigeria has 50% of Nigeria is women. So
Yeah.
and we don't see a lot of women in that tech space. So we don't see that diversity that we actually require in providing services. So how is Sigularity what are you trying to do to change that?
Well, first of all, I do want to highlight, maybe this isn't true necessarily in tech, but in Nigeria and Zambia, I believe, have the highest rates of female entrepreneurship in the world. So as long as we can help attract those young women that have that entrepreneurial drive, to help them understand that tech is a field that they can go into, that they can realize a lot of career growth. And also, if they're entrepreneurial, also afford a lot of freedom to raise their family while starting a business.
In banking or in other financial services, we found that women were less risk to men when it came to lending.
Completely.
But on the investment side, I've found that women are also very difficult to actually get invested in because they actually want to hold that responsibility by themselves.
Such a good point. Yeah. So that's something that we found too. Actually, women are more likely to take smaller loans from friend and family than to look for outside loans or equity investment. And they're more likely to grow their business at what some might call a conservative pace, but what I would say as they're trying to keep in check that the growth that they can actually manage internally.
Exactly.
And to sustain the business for a long term. Whereas, no offense, Isoma, but a lot of men, I would say, are much more aggressive, and that is like, make it to the top or bust. Yeah.
So the ideal opportunity would be a business where the co-founders are one man and one woman and a woman. So at least you know that there'll be a balance in terms of how far they grow.
And I would love that. And also, female-run businesses tend to see higher growth in net income on the bottom line. Maybe not necessarily top-line growth, but at the end, and better returns for investors.
So I think the retention of customer loyalty is quite higher in women-run business. Excellent. So, final question, and not really about Sigularity. You said you've been in Nigeria for 7 years. So, what do you do when you're not looking for opportunities?
Yeah, so I love Nigeria, and I'm not going to leave anytime soon. But one of the things that's really...
You'll soon get your passport very soon.
Yeah, I'm working on my passport, definitely working on it. So this might shock a lot of Nigerians, but I love to kite surf. So I go out in front of Landmark Beach and spend my weekends on the water kite surfing.
Well, that's fantastic. Lexi, thank you for coming on to Tech Turks, and we'll continue the conversation afterwards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.